Good evening to you and welcome if you're just joining us. We begin with this. A sting operation by the Labour Department officials is currently underway at a restaurant in Menlyn, that's here in Gauteng. It comes after the eatery's management was accused of exploiting workers on social media. Let's speak now to Newsroom Africa's Nqobile Madlala, who is live for us in Pretoria this hour. Nqobile, good evening to you. Tell us exactly what the name of that restaurant is and why it is being raided this hour.
Well, Cody, the name of the restaurant is Barbell Restaurant, and really, at this point, there are questions around how they treat their people, whether they're being exploited or not, and whether or not they have the right documentation. And this is why we find various departments at this point, from the Department of Labour and Employment, we've got immigration here, we've got the Hawks as well. They are currently looking at their documentation that they have of their staff. On my right-hand side already, that's where they are. I want to bring in the DG to speak to us, though, about this. DG, amongst other things, is a video that we saw on social media that details how workers feel that their rights have been infringed on. Can you tell us what other complaints did you get?
Well, so there's a myriad of complaints that we have, particularly regarding the people not necessarily complaining while complying with labour laws, and which is why the Department of Employment and Labour is here. So we also have received some complaints related to other nefarious activities that are happening in the establishment, which is why we have a joint operation from the Hawks, Employment and Labour, and also Home Affairs to ensure that all the other aspects of law issues that have been reported to us are actually attended to. It is not new, all right? It is something that has been concerning to us. We have had a number of visits and inspections in the past week or two, and this issue has been coming up quite prominently. We are concerned about certain industries, particularly the hospitality has come up to be a bit of a risk for us. So we want to make sure that people comply with the law.
What sort of experts of issues are coming out in the hospitality industry?
Well, look, amongst other things, is the fact that people are not observing occupational healthcare and safety practices, and also basic conditions of employment are not necessarily adhered to. There are complaints from employees that they are being abused, they're not necessarily being remunerated appropriately and properly, and they are made to work extraordinary hours that are not necessarily within the confines of the law. They are actually made to pay for stuff that we believe that they should not necessarily be paying for, including uniform in certain instances, and as you have picked up also on that video, the young person there indicating that they have been actually requested or forced, for that matter, to pay for cutlery and related matters that actually supposed to be provided by the establishment.
Tell me what you're looking for specifically in this restaurant then.
So specifically, we're wanting to make sure that one, all employees that are here are documented, firstly. Secondly, we want to make sure that the laws in terms of actual hours of employment are observed. Thirdly, we want to make sure that there is proper contribution in terms of compensation and in terms of compensation fund, and there's also compliance in terms of the unemployment insurance fund. And there's a whole lot of other laws that we are making sure that there's compliance with, that are within the purview of the Department of Employment and Labour.
And DJ, just behind you as you speak to me, you can see there, they're basically doing an inspection. So inspectors looking in terms of the health. As he says, there are compliances that needs to be followed, and that's currently taking place behind us as we continue this conversation. But also now all the employees have been brought to the other side. What are you expecting to get from that other side?
Well, firstly, first of all, we need to understand and document all the employees that are here and understand that who they are and whether they have got the requisite documentation in terms of their, them being in South Africa legally or illegally. But also, though, it is important for us to also talk to them and understand their own experiences so that we can then attend to those complaints if ever there are any from them as well.
And in a case where you find that there are certain areas where they're not compliant, what will happen next?
Well, so that's why we have all the other relevant law enforcement agencies with us, and to an extent that there's law that has not been complied with, and the necessary action will be taken. If ever people have to be jailed, then they will be jailed, right? So we want to make sure that we leave no stone unturned, whether it is the owner himself or the employees themselves, so that to an extent that they don't comply with any of our country's laws. We want to make sure that the law takes its own course there.
And lastly, what has taken you so long to get to do this sting operation?
Well, so one of the difficult issues with matters of compliance, you rely a lot in your own risk assessment, that you do to scan the horizon and understand the risk there. But most importantly, you rely a lot on the public to come forward and explain and share with us their own experiences. So we do want to encourage more of our citizens that are picking up these particular issues, like the young lady that came out in public, to do the same, so that we can then be able to attend to these particular issues. Of course, we have a very big country. We have a widespread area that we need to cover, so it's not always easy to get everywhere. But we are establishing additional capacity within the department to attend to some of from an inspectorate point of view, to attend to some of these particular matters.
Thank you very much, DJ, for speaking to us. I want to show you clearly just what's taking place here. So you'll remember that he spoke about the documentation, and that documentation is currently taking place here. This is where they are ensuring, sorry ma'am, this is where they're showing, these are some of the workers within this restaurant, and they're currently being booked. You can see there that's an immigration officer that's currently looking at them and getting their details. This is to ensure, again, that they are properly documented. What you see there in front of interview us some of the documents that they've asked the restaurants to also provide. As we were coming in, they were saying that do they have licenses, do they have documentation for their workers, and this is some of those documents that are being brought in. Main issue, they have in a way ill-treated some of their worker, going on Twitter and basically blowing the whistle in what is taking place here, and these are some of the things that they've asked if it is indeed taking place, and they're looking at that. We are told that the young lady that was on social media in the video that they have to buy their own uniform, that they're asked to, they're not remunerated properly, and so that documentation should be able to reveal all those details that are needed by the various departments that are currently here. 4 departments, labor and employment, the Hawks are here, immigration is here, so there's a lot that is taking place here, but of course we'll keep you on the loop as it unfolds.
Hello everyone, welcome to DNU.
Correct, Bully. In fact, where I'm standing, you'll see behind me there's an immigration van. That van currently has some of the employees from the Barbell restaurants that have been arrested, and we know that the employer as well has been asked to come here, and also he has been arrested. We understand at this point that about 68 South Africans are actually working for that restaurant, and out of those about 2 people have been found to not have their documents. So those are people that are not from South Africa, and as a result, because of the fact that those people are currently working within the restaurant and don't have their documentation, then the owner now has to answer for that, and this is why he was arrested. I want to bring in immigration now to speak to us about that, and I think I've tried to explain it that South Africans are there, but there are people that don't have their documentation. Explain to us why this has occurred.
Now, when we're doing our inspections, like what you have said, we did find that there were 2
taking jobs away from the people
Barbell
of South Africa
that did not have the necessary documentation. Normally what we do, if people are working and they don't have the documentations to be working, they get arrested. We don't only arrest them alone, we also arrest the employer. What we have done now, we did find the 2 from Barbell. They've been arrested, they don't have documentations to be in the country, and then we've also arrested the employer, so that the employer can also go and answer on the number of those people that are there, and also to explain why is he employing people with no documentation.
And of course you went to 2 restaurants today. Take me through what immigration was looking for in all these restaurants.
In both the 2 restaurants, one is Ocean Basket, the other one is Barbell. Immigration was trying to check as to the number of employees that are within that space, how many of those employees are South Africans and how many are foreigners, and those who are foreigners, what kind of documentations do they have? Because for a person to work in an establishment of that nature, they must be in possession of a work permit if they are not South Africans. That is why the 2 that we did find there, they were effected the arrest.
And how often are these laws flouted?
It's often. We at times note some of these occurrences when we visit some of the restaurants, because the issue of visiting, checking compliance is what we are doing almost every day as Home Affairs with our Inspectorate Immigration Services. So in some areas you find that employers are incompliant, and in some areas you find that they are not in compliance. So in this